welcome to the Polish and Flourish series by the Polish Cultural Institute, New York. Today, my guest is Justyna Wierzchowska, a PhD and an associate professor at the Institute of English Studies in the University of Warsaw. Welcome.
Welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to be here.
I just want to add that you're interested in researching European and North American contemporary art through the lenses of maternal studies, and we'll focus on the subject later on. And I also want to add that you have been here in New York on an exchange program funded by NAWA, which is Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange.
Yes, this is correct.
Yes, and that would be my first question, meaning how it happened that you started this scholarship here. Where did you hear about the program, and was it difficult to apply? Mainly, what was the story? Because I know it's a bit interesting as well. Yes,
I think it's a fascinating story, and it tells the story of what happened in New York City and globally over the last since 2019, because in 2019-2020 I was in New York City on a Fulbright program, and it was a dramatic experience because we had to go back because of COVID. So I didn't manage to do my research. We had to leave New York City immediately. And we went back to Poland. I mean my family and I. So we went back to Poland, and I was so unhappy, so frustrated, and had this huge sensation of, this is not how it's supposed to be. I wanted to complete the book because I was working on a book, and I need to find a way to get it done. And I decided to apply for the NAWA program. And I knew it was very competitive. I knew it would be difficult to do it, but I did my best. I think I gave it my best, and I was successful. And it is not easy, I think, to get a scholarship within the humanities. We may talk about this maybe later. But I was successful, and I was so very happy to be able to come. So this is the story behind this stay.
And where did you start your scholarship? Was it NYU at the beginning of it, or?
Yes, in both cases it was NYU with the same professor.
Okay, and I want to also ask you about the maternal studies. When did you become interested in the subject? Because it's not such a well-known discipline in academic research.
Yeah, so as you said in the introduction, I am a professor at the Institute of English Studies. This is a neo-philology. So what neo-philologists in Poland do, they focus on linguistics, theoretical and applied, but also on literary studies and also cultural studies. So I am within cultural studies, and cultural studies, which got the name and has been developing as a field since the 1960s. The discipline has been branching into all different directions. So we have because now it's even more divided. So we had women's studies, gender studies, masculinity studies, all different studies. And among them, motherhood studies is almost invisible. So what I want to emphasize is that motherhood studies or maternal studies or mothering studies or mother studies, because there is no consensus even as to the name, it is part of cultural studies. The question why it is so little visible within academia, I think it's a very significant question. And it's also a question which I think inscribes into the way the lived mothering experience gets very little recognition in culture. So I think, I know, it's not even I think, I know that motherhood studies is not institutionalized, meaning, there is no institute, department, anything in academia that would allow you to do a degree in motherhood studies. There is there are few venues, like publication venues. So, in comparison to big studies, which hold annual conferences, which have journals, which have, many people who are contributing to the development of the studies. Motherhood studies is small, okay? And my personal story is that I became interested in motherhood studies, honestly, when I became a mother. But then when I did, and I started, looking at cultural studies, on and on and on and on, I realized how little there was. So I would say that this is, for me, it's an engagement which is both motivated by my personal situation, but it is also motivated by an intellectual interest and this attempt to bridge the gap between the professional and the personal, and to, come up with a more cohesive and integrated way of looking at human life, our life experience, and also at the ways we function in academia, and the way we publish, and the way, we engage with the humanities, basically.
It's a very interesting thing that it's not really represented when everyone has a mother. Almost everyone, yes. Yes, but it's a kind of common denomination for all of human beings,
Yes, and and my hope, and actually my decision is to try to do something about it, not only academically, not only by publishing, but also by activism. 2 months ago, I participated in the conference organized by the International Association for Maternal Action and Scholarship, IAMAS. And we are doing our best, to put maternal studies on the academic map. So when I go back to Poland, I will be co-leading the International Women's Forum for the IAMAS, and I will try to find, and not even find because I know some of them, but kind of get European and not only European maternal scholars together, and do something together, and make it
happen,
grow, and make it, more visible.
Yes.
So.
And what have you been working on during your scholarship? Because I know you've visited some other places. You have traveled a little bit all over the US. So if you could just tell me more, what have you done basically?
Yeah, right. So the biggest research trip that I've done, during this stay, was the one to New Haven, to the Beinecke Library at Yale University, because I'm completing a book which is titled Related for Life, Mothering in Contemporary Visual Art. So I have 6 chapters, and each of them is devoted to a different artist. And there is one on Georgia O'Keeffe. And Georgia O'Keeffe obviously is one of the most famous, recognized, written about female artists. Obviously, she's one of the greatest figures of not only American modernist art, but I think, art as such. She did not have children. She was very secluded. She didn't give interviews. It is very difficult to, find information about, how she felt about the topic of the maternal in her own life. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put together a chapter which would be analyzing the maternal dimensions in her life. And it is, I've been finding it's a fascinating but a difficult thing to do, because, it's basically looking for little puzzles, here and there in biographies, in letters, in, the very few statements that we have in documentaries, and, trying to come up with, this and this and this, right? Like this event has been given this one explanation across the scholarship, but if we take into account the fact that during that time something significant happened in relation to the maternal, then maybe, there is a way to see it in a different light. So, I am excited about it. Actually, I am going back to New Haven this Monday to take some photos of some of the material which I already saw. But when I came back, when I went back to my notes, I realized I was so emotionally submerged in what I was doing that I have to, double check what came from Georgia O'Keeffe and what came from me. I'm making, this little trip on Monday in 3 days, just to, get it absolutely precise.
Yes,
right?
precise. And I also want to ask you, because you have been here for a while, is there any difference between, if any, between the academic work like in Poland and the one in the US? Because the system is a bit different, it's usually universities, the students have to pay for them, so maybe there is much more rivalry about it. If you could just tell me more, and also from a female perspective, do you see any difference here, whereas where you compare it to Polish academic, let's say, space,
It is it's a very complex question, and I mean it because even the way I've understood it has been changing over the course of my stay, because I think that, first of all, New York City is a very special place, and also the fact that I am at NYU, and this time no, but 3 years ago I audited some classes, so I could see the dynamics of the teaching methods, the students, all of this. And this time I have been invited to teach 2 classes at CUNY, right, which is a community university, and it was very different. So even within the city of New York, it depends which university you go to, right? So this is one thing. The other thing is that I have traveled to Milwaukee, Chicago, and San Antonio in Texas for conferences, and I've met academics who are not based in New York City. They are based in all different colleges, universities across the United States, and the difference, again, is huge. New York City is a place of privilege. The academics, the stories that they told me, for example, about their students who could not afford to buy a textbook, like telling me that, for example, that, if they teach classes, they cannot ask their students to buy a textbook, which is expensive, because they will not do it, because they don't have the money. So I think it would be wrong to make generalizations, because it varies a lot. But and I think that the fact that students pay here for the studies, it also translates into how, I don't know which word to use, but kind of like the practical, like they want to get the practical skills, right? Like they know they need this degree because they have to make a living, and many of them, they will have to pay back the student's loan. Right? In Poland, it's a different story because, and again, I don't want to generalize, but I've been teaching at the University of Poland for a long time, and I've noticed, and it's not a big number of students, but I've noticed that because you don't pay for the studies, some students, they start like multiple programs.
Yes.
And then,
yes.
They move on and again and again, because it's only, the question of time. It's not the question of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, I had this student who was not that diligent, and she came up with all sorts of explanations, like why she didn't hand in something, why she did so poor on the test. Like every time she had an explanation. And, at some point I got suspicious and I checked her history in the system, right? And I found out that she had started 6 different programs, right? And she hadn't finished any of them. So then I was like, this. So, so I would say that here, if you study and you pay for it, then the motivation, I guess, is different.
It's different, yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, it's very stressful because you keep thinking about whether you have a job that will be able to pay off the debt
and then
later on,
and get you still forward, right, in life.
And then I also wanted to touch upon the subject of how difficult it is to find financial support within humanities, within this kind of research, because of course we know that the other disciplines have more financing, and how about what you have been doing, how difficult it is, basically.
Right, the humanities, the big difference between the humanities and hard sciences is that, hard sciences, it's easier to translate them into practical, commercial, sometimes, uses, right? So, it makes perfect sense, right? There is money in them because, with some of the research, what you do, the effects of this research directly translates into practical applications of this, right? So the developments in biology, medicine, basically sciences, right? The humanities, it's it is something that very often, even as you do research and it's time consuming, very often it's very frustrating. You go to the archives, you don't know what you will find. You may dedicate lots of time trying to, find something which would support what you think is right, and you may not be able to do it. Very often, what you publish, what you find out, does not translate into, any commercial uses, right? So the humanities, I think there has been a struggle, right? There has been a struggle across different branches of the humanities. A big difference which I have noticed between Poland and here, and even in comparison to 3 years ago, is the massive scale of the post-colonial turn. I think that even 3 years ago, when I went to the Museum of Modern Art, what they exhibited was not obviously there were many exhibits by non-white artists, but in comparison 3 years ago and today, the shift has been massive. Now you can go through a whole floor at the MoMA and you will not see any exhibits by white artists. So I think that this process has started and it is continuing. And in Poland, the situation is very different for all different reasons. So for example, with my book, initially 3 years ago, I thought that I could frame it mostly with theories which were created in Great Britain by white men, most of them, or women, but white people. And now I can clearly see that if I want to submit my book proposal to an American publisher, I have to reframe it. Like, there is no way. you know, to do it, right? So, you know, it is very sobering. I think it's very good, but and it's also very dynamic.
Yes. I think here you have like complete cultural revolution and a shift in a way. Yeah.
I think so.
You're
And
right.
I think, you know, that this is one of the most significant assets of academic mobility. You know, it's a different story to be in Poland and read about it, and it's a different story to come and experience it, to feel it in your body, to go and see those exhibitions, to read the captions, you know, to go and listen to people who talk about it, right? Like, there is no going back, right, if you have this experience within you.
Yes, right. And you just went smoothly to the next question, which was I wanted to ask you, how has this experience changed your view, you know, of your academic career also, you know, because for sure it has to, it had to change it, you know.
Yes, right. So again, maybe, you know, like, first of all, I will go back to what I have mentioned, right? I think the most practical, for me, thing that happened was that I got invited to the executive board of the International Association for Maternal Action and Scholarship. And I will be co-developing, because I have two scholars who will be doing this with me, one Irish and one American, but she's based in Europe at the moment. So we will be co-leading the International Women's Forum, trying to, you know, develop the visibility of maternal studies, you know, like, to make the international association truly international. Okay, so we will be looking also for people in Asia, you know, different places. So I think that this is this one thing, right? This is what I'm taking back with me to Poland, and this is something that I will be working on next year. We will be holding virtual talks on methodologies in maternal studies, because, right, like, if you don't have, if this field is not institutionalized, then you don't have all the things that, for example, in the case of African American studies, it's obvious. You have anthologies, you have, you know, the classical scholarship, you have the tradition, you have the thinkers, you know, like, you belong to this, right? And we have to forge it. Okay, so this is this
starts from scratch,
like, you know,
basically.
like, we have to do it. Okay, so this is this you know, and this wouldn't have happened without, you know, me being here. Okay, so this is, I think it's big. And also the book that you know, I have almost finished, but I still have the editing to do, and, you know, some wrapping up of the chapters. The book is going to be vastly modified because of this experience, right? I cannot imagine that I would have been able to write it in Warsaw, like, without this experience, the way I can see now that it makes sense to do it. So yeah, like, I cannot even tell you, you know, because as I said, it's not only about what happens to you consciously, right, that you go to a talk and say, oh, okay, this is, right? It also happens within you, okay? And I think that I will be able to come back to it and draw from it when I go back to Poland. I think that, you know, like, when I go back, I will be able to feel, you know, what I've brought with me.
Yes, it needs some time also to develop and to see you from some distance, you know.
Yes.
So my last question would be, what would be your maybe advice for, I don't know, a young female scholar, or maybe not even a scholar yet, but a student thinking about having this academic career within humanities and not necessarily the kind of hard sciences that you mentioned before, you know?
I can talk about the humanities, I think.
Of course,
I wouldn't, you know, like, I wouldn't
because
be
you
able...
cannot compare.
Right, that might be very different. And, okay, first of all, I believe that at least this is the way I am. Like if you do something academically, you need to be passionate about it. Especially, I think, in Poland when I am at a state university, right? Like the University of Warsaw, it is financed by taxpayers, okay? And I think that this is a credit that you get, so like my thing is, I always think I have to feel that what I'm doing is meaningful. And also I have to kind of like give back, okay, if you know what I mean. So my advice for young scholars, both male and female, would be, first of all, find out what it is that you want to do, and then do your best to locate and get in touch with more advanced scholars and discuss it many times, right? So that you can find about the methodologies, the approaches, like anything which will allow you to locate yourself within, the bigger picture of what you want to do. Find good mentors and be persistent, okay? Don't take failures as something which is meant to destroy you. Learn from it, okay? Like with every failure, you get some feedback. If you want to apply for doctoral studies and you fail, you get some comments. See what's in them and do it better next time. Reapply, okay? If you want to do it, right? I wasn't that smart, back in time. And I think that some of the things with which I was not successful, I couldn't look at what positive was in it. But now I know it. Right? Like when I fail, for example, if I submit an article and I get rejected, I can see what's in the comments, okay? I can make it better. I can resubmit. And I can, like you have to be humble. But if you know what you want to do, you can take the good stuff and move up. Right? And I think mentorship, you cannot overestimate it. Maybe a month ago, I went to this beautiful book launch on feminist mentorship. It was amazing. It was a collection of, I think, maybe 13 essays from women scholars about their experiences with mentorship. And some of them were good, some of them were not that good, some of them were mixed, okay? But the good ones, I mean, like you have this one person who believes in you and who tells you, stand up, okay? Get back on your feet, move on, okay? Then, I would say,
yes,
this is the way.
I think what you're saying is very meaningful. Having a mentor and also a community that supports you. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so this is what, I'm trying to do with maternal studies, right?
Yeah.
Build a community, right? Like have a sense of an academic home.
Yes,
like this space that you feel you belong to, right? That you want to give it your best.
Yes.
Right?
And to learn to make a lemonade out of lemons, basically. So you're, the things that maybe didn't go well at the beginning.
Right. And also, I'm thinking like we've been mentioning this shift that has happened. I believe that maternal studies has the potential of, also introducing a paradigm shift in academia, which would be more about teamwork and less about competition, more about the ethics of care and less about, that I have to, me.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'm hopeful.
Good. That's very, very, very interesting. And thank you for the conversation, because I think your passion is so visible, for the subject. And I'm just wishing you all the best, and hopefully, one day soon we'll have a whole anthology of maternal studies and all the devices and tools that the discipline needs to flourish, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Polish and Flourish.
Polish and Flourish.
In maternal studies.
Exactly. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much for inviting me. As I said, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward, to future conversations.
Of course, yes, you're welcome, and thank you to NAWA because how we've met, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
Once again, thank you.
Thank you.